Five Nights at Freddy's and Sonic the Hedgehog are two series that quite literally could not be more different in terms of gameplay. Because in terms of fan bases, I'd say they're pretty dang similar. And in terms of storyline, well, I don't think they're quite on par with each other, but I mean, there's some parallels here. And as a massive fan of both franchises, I wanted to make a big video talking about what I think is similar between the two franchises and just kind of, I don't even know, this video is just bullcrap. I came up with this video in the shower and I'm just going with it. I'm gonna make this video. So, Five Nights at Freddy's and Sonic the Hedgehog. What do they have in common? Well, I think the best place to start is probably the basics about the series. So I'm going to quickly explain the premise of Five Nights at Freddy's and the premise of Sonic the Hedgehog, just to kind of lay out some ground rules. I know everybody already knows this, but yeah. Sonic the Hedgehog stars Sonic the Hedgehog, who has to defeat Dr. Eggman and destroy all of his robots to free little animals that he traps inside of them. Sometimes there's weird, like, gods involved and stuff. It's just like Sonic and Eggman, Sonic good guy, Eggman bad guy, Eggman does evil stuff, and Sonic has to stop him. That's the typical Sonic premise. But on top of all that, there is very convoluted lore and like a billion characters. The typical premise of Five Nights at Freddy's is you are an individual who is stuck inside of a building, whether for work or because you're actually trapped in there, and you need to survive in there for the whole night while there's evil animatronics roaming around that want to kill you. But on top of all that, there is very convoluted lore and like a billion characters. Deja vu, huh? Before we get into that, the Sleepy Turtle plush, it only has 10 days left to order it. So if you want this, make sure you go order it right now or whenever you can, because there's not a lot of time left. It's awesome, it's high quality, it feels like a Squishmallow. This is truly my magnum opus. So if you want to go the extra mile in supporting the channel, it would mean a ton to me. We're trying to get to the production goal, so yeah, that's all. Back to the video. So I think something to note is that FNAF lore is something that is basically the foundation of the series, while Sonic lore is something that most people don't take seriously because it's Sonic the Hedgehog. But honestly, I'd say Sonic and FNAF have a pretty equal amount of lore convolution. Convolution? Is that even a word? I don't know, it sounds smart. FNAF is kind of speed ran making its lore this complicated, but at the same time, Sonic kind of started off with two completely separate canons depending on what country you lived in. Those canons was split into even more canons, which bled into other canons. It was just like a whole thing. I could not even tell you what goes on in the early Sonic lore. I don't know. Obviously, the stuff that's actually in the games is pretty cut and dry, but everything around them back in the 90s was kinda just like the Wild West in terms of Sonic stuff. And Sonic absolutely still has a very confusing set of lore to follow. Like, are you really gonna tell me Sonic Prime is canon? Are you really gonna tell me that? Official sources say that everything ties in together, but it's just kinda like, doesn't make any sense at times. Like, oh, that's a fun little Easter egg. Sonic, there is a planet-destroying god that's supposed to be sealed inside of a robot right now, right behind you. Why are you not doing anything about it? Sonic Frontiers has a lot of attempts to tie the lore together, and some of it works really well, and others just kind of like, I don't get it. Now, similarly to Sonic, Five Nights at Freddy's also has a bunch of different canons and different forms of media, all of which having unconfirmed degrees of canonicity. FNAF is more complicated in the sense that some of the things in other continuities, primarily book stuff, is required to know in order to fully understand the things that go on in the video games, which is weird. I'd say the Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex books are kinda like the Sonic comics, but on crack in terms of lore implication. Like, IDW Sonic is literally just confirmed canon, but then you got the FNAF books where, like, Fazbear Frights is maybe canon, Tales from the Pizzaplex is kinda canon, the novels just aren't, and then there's that one.
No, you don't get to. You don't get to do that. You don't get to literally defile everything SpongeBob grew to be.
Every brand I like joining forces to make the worst Roblox games I've ever played. Okay, hear me out, but Dr. Robotnik, Eggman, he's kinda like if you took William Afton and gave him way too much power. Cause think about it, what is William like doing? He likes making robots and putting little defenseless creatures inside of them, studying the power that comes from said creatures, and using it to achieve his goals. And yes, while Eggman doesn't straight up kill them, torturing them is also bad, I'd argue. And I'm not gonna act like Eggman's innocent. Do you see what he's done? Millions of people had to have died here, not to mention the animals too. William Afton is responsible for the deaths of like 50-something people as just a normal person that he started out as. Eggman has so much wealth and power and intellect. Imagine if William Afton had the exact same power. They would be like the same character. They're both extremely egotistical about literally everything. They both have extremely little regard for other life as long as it gives them power. William Afton would probably do the same stuff Eggman does to the world, maybe a bit worse. Now, there's a ton of stuff I could say about the fandoms for FNAF and Sonic, but I'm not gonna go into that stuff because, you know, it's kinda boring. A lot of it can apply to any fandom that has a lot of autistic people in it, so I don't see how FNAF and Sonic are special in this regard. That being said, a lot of people compare Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach to being the Sonic 06 of FNAF. I've seen that comparison made a lot before, and I personally disagree with it, because I think that's kind of an insult to Security Breach. Sonic 06 is like, literally like, almost unplayable. Security Breach is like a video game, you know, you can play it, it's got some problems, it's a big difference from a lot of previous games in the series. A lot of people really loved it, and a lot of people really hated it.
Same ugly, stretched out, green-eyed Sonic fighting the modern-style Eggman. Is that what he's gonna be called too? Dr. Eggman? Ugh! I'm so infuriated right now. This is a complete turn-off.
I think that Security Breach is a lot more comparable to something like Sonic Adventure. A brand new game in the series is taking a massive leap forward that also changes a ton of things and goes in a very, very different direction. A direction that, while successful, did split the fandom to a very large degree. Both very successful games in their own right with tons upon tons of fans that were just too big of a departure for some people. As well as them just generally being pretty rough around the edges and unpolished, but Sonic Adventure kind of gets a pass because it was very impressive for the time it came out. Security Breach was time constraints. But if it means anything, Security Breach was impressive for the team that made it. One thing that FNAF and Sonic do not have in common is the fact that the third game in the series, and Sonic is one of the best in the series, but for FNAF it's like, it's like fine, I guess. You know, if you think about it, Infinite using the Phantom Ruby is kinda exactly like William Afton using the Illusion Disc. They both have Funko Pops and Nendroids, which is like official crossover. They're both in Fortnite. Yeah. Alright, here's a niche and obscure thing that they both just so happen to have. Funko Pop Pez dispensers. Funko Pop cereal! Normal cereal. Being completely honest, I didn't really know what my goals were with this video. I just thought that I should make it, and then I went and I actually did it. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. This video was just kind of stupid. I did it for fun, but yeah. Only 10 more days to get the plush, basically 9 at this point, so make sure you get it while you still can. And I'll see you guys in the next video.